Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the stream. Today is going to be a very special stream. I'm going to be celebrating that I got a new job, which is very exciting. And we're also going to be doing Reddit roundups, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the tour I was just on, which was a Texas tour. So if you can hear me, go ahead, hop in the chat. Let me know if the audio is good and if the video looks good. And see if anyone's watching. Hey, what's up, a friendo? Hey, Carrie, how y'all doing tonight? Happy Sunday, fun weekend. Anyone do anything over the weekend? You do some activism? Good, you can hear me. All looks good. Excellent, perfect. Nice. So I apologize that I haven't been uploading videos for the last couple weeks. The reason is because I've been out getting more content. I went on tour with Allied Scholars for Animal Protection. We went to University of North Texas, Sam Houston State University, and Texas A&M, which their mascot is the Aggies. It's a huge agricultural school, and honestly, after the tour, I'm feeling much more optimistic about animal rights than I usually am. I'm not sure if I've gotten better at speaking about it or if people are more open to animal rights, but I had so many amazing conversations. I think another part of that is that we've had these ASAP groups, the student groups on these campuses, talking to people as well. So the more people who interact with the vegan message, the more they hear about it, the more it makes sense to them. I think we really do have the power to change society. And ASAP's amazing because they focus on universities, which is where the future leaders of America are going to be. And I had the chance to talk to a lot of animal science majors, and many of them didn't realize what animal science was when they signed up for that major. They thought it was going to be about helping animals or learning about animal biology. And throughout their classes, they've been learning essentially how to do factory farming. So they've learned about tail docking and, managing chicken feed and all this stuff. And a lot of them feel uncomfortable with it. There were a couple animal science majors I talked to that did not feel anything for the animals. They felt as if what they were doing was right and there's a reason they're doing it. They have to feed America. So, there are some people that are never going to understand animal rights, and that's just the reality of it. But it's our job to try to talk to people who we can connect with. What's up, Nilf? Thanks for hopping in. Glad that y'all are here. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of what else happened on tour that was interesting? I'm kind of testing a new way of talking to people, just trying to be even more empathetic because Pax Fauna's research found that being extra empathetic is a good way to cut through defensiveness. And I really kind of over focused on that this time. And I think it was actually helpful. So whenever you do an outreach, you kind of have the option to look down on people or to treat them unkindly, or you have the option to be really nice and really relate to them. And that's what Faraz does really well too. So it was great to be able to be around other activists and talk to them about techniques and whatnot. That being said, I'm I'm really tired. I got in kind of late last night, and then my husband was actually shooting something at our house, a scene for something he's working on. So people were over here till like maybe 11:30, and then we had dinner, and the time change was weird because I stayed up kind of late. So I was up till it was like 1:50. And then the next time I looked at the clock, it was 3:05 because we just skipped that 2 a.m. hour. And that's something I look forward to every year because I love spring forward. It's basically like you get an extra hour of daylight. It's still light outside now and it's 6:24. It'll probably be light for like the next hour and a half, which is amazing. I hate when it gets dark at 4 p.m. I get so sad, or even 5 p.m. and then I can't go out and ride my bike. So I love spring forward. I find that I get a lot of energy around this time of year as well. But that being said, sleeping on tour was a struggle. It's hard for me to sleep in hotel rooms, and I And I'm really looking forward to being home and having some time to relax and unwind. And we got a lot of great footage. One thing that I mentioned on the last stream, I don't know if y'all were here, but I was talking about how the vegan movement needs to find allies. And we were saying maybe climate people would be good, or, kind of floating ideas. And I actually think that over the last week and a half, since we were tabling, the only other group that was consistently tabling as well were Christians. And I had a lot of really interesting conversations with Christians. Now, I don't think that they're going to be great for the fight for animal rights, but I think they could be really helpful in the fight against factory farming. Christspiracy comes out very soon. I'm really excited about it. I think that ideally, if we can harness some of the Christian message and mobilize Christians, I think that could be a strong potential ally. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what y'all think about that one. All right, so now we can let's get into the Reddit roundup. Oh, it looks like Reddit's like notifying me for some reason. That's weird. Okay, present, share screen. Okay. Cool. So, can a vegan and a non-vegan relationship work long term? Oh, these are just Reddit's giving me notifications to recommend posts. That's weird. Anyway, let's talk about vegan relationships, because that's always a really hot topic on the vegan subreddits. Can a vegan and a non-vegan relationship work long term? My partner and I have been together for almost 5 years. I'm vegan, but he is not. Early on in the relationship, I tried to open his mind to it and talk about it, but he didn't want to change, and I've made peace with that. Over the summer, we got engaged, and overall, it's a pretty drama-free relationship. We agreed he wouldn't eat meat in front of me, and if we go out for dinner, he orders vegetarian or vegan, and that's how we've made it work. We had a bit of a blow up the other day, mainly just about how we are very different people, and we need to think carefully about if the compromises we are making to be together are worth it. We both want kids one day, and I am just hoping to hear some perspectives from someone with a family with a non-vegan, and how if you've made it work. Ideally, I'd like to raise them vegan, and when they are old enough, they can choose the lifestyle they want. But I am concerned about how to handle not alienating my partner if he still chooses to eat meat while I'm explaining to the kids that it's not necessarily right. Or family meals together, like saying he always has to be vegan or vegetarian at home. Any advice would be much appreciated. Oh, man. That's tough. Okay, someone in the chat says, I'm with a non-vegan. I hate it. But if I could date a vegan, I would love it. Yeah, that's similar to how I feel. Let's see what some of these contests say. I personally would not be able to make it work if I saw no possibility of change. Our worldviews wouldn't be compatible. Been with my guy for 13 years. It works because I don't buy meat. Okay, so she's vegan, but I can't look into too much. I've realized that most people in this world are not vegan. If I solely looked for relationships from people who are vegan, I would have no friends, literally. That sucks. Man, there's a lot of people who are in this situation. So, yeah, I guess as far as my thoughts on that is that if you want to have a vegan relationship, it is possible, but you might have to change some things about your current life. So some people who say, "Oh, I don't have any vegans in my dating pool," or whatever, you would if you live in a small town and there really are vegans, then you're not going to have many vegans in your dating pool, especially at the right age. And, just because someone's vegan doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get along. So finding a vegan that you're attracted to that's also attracted to you in an area where there's barely any vegans could be tough. If you moved to a bigger city, then that could change that. You could actually get some more opportunities. You could move to a city that has a lot of vegan activists. Then there's tons of people in your dating pool. I recommend anyone who hasn't tried activism but wants to find vegan friends or a vegan relationship to try going to activism events. I have friends in various cities. They have this amazing activist community. They're always hanging out. they go do a protest together, and then they go get dinner. A lot of them are dating each other, and obviously that does present somewhat of a threat to the activist community, because if two people break up that are really involved, then that could affect how much activism they do. So it's important to manage your relationships well, and to, if you do break up, to end amicably. But the benefits of dating a vegan are so profound to me. I'm so glad my husband went vegan right after I did. I don't know what would have happened to our relationship if that hadn't been the case, just because I'm so passionate about this, and I really changed my whole lifestyle to become an animal rights advocate. And if he hadn't been there and been supportive of me and helped me out, then it would have just been a lot more difficult, and it would have put strain on our relationship. But the biggest benefit to having a vegan relationship is just that, like, if you go out with your friends and most of them aren't vegan, and maybe one of them says something that's annoying, or you're around your family and you're the only vegans, you have each other to rely on and to support each other. And I have found that to be so amazing. Like, if someone says something mean, and then I can just bitch to my husband about it, and it's made the whole thing so much smoother. I would not want to give up a vegan relationship. So if you're in a relationship with a non-vegan, think about that. There's an opportunity cost, right? That means the opportunity cost is that you're not with someone who really could share your values. And having that sort of union has been really amazing for me. And I see other couples of vegans when they're both passionate, and it seems like it really makes a difference. There's also somewhat of a risk. I mean, the truth is that a lot of vegans go ex-vegan, and I don't think anyone should think that they're immune to that. And we are heavily influenced by people around us. So if you marry a non-vegan, not only do you have to deal with that, but you're also increasing the risk that you could become ex-vegan one day, which is a risk to the animals. And even if it seems like you would never do that, I've seen people who marry meat eaters and then they get pregnant, and then their husband's like, "Oh, I don't want our kid to be vegan because they think it's unhealthy or whatever." And then that person stops being vegan, and that is a shame. We want to do everything in our power to stay vegan, to help animals. And I think having a vegan relationship really helps with that as well. What's up, Sky? Vegan, of course. What's up, Lewis? How y'all doing? If any of you have a non-vegan boyfriend, I'm single. Easy switcheroo. Exactly. Perfect. Just switch it up. Meet people on the internet. No problem with that. And if y'all ever have any questions for me, throw them in the chat. I'm happy to answer anything. I guess since more people have joined, I want to talk about my new job that I'm really excited about. So you've probably heard me mention in my videos Pax Fauna, which is an animal rights organization that I've really looked up to for a while, because they put out this amazing study about how to talk to non-vegans effectively, and how we can, well, they actually said we should probably stop trying to make people vegan, because they're other effective routes of change. But even within talking to people about veganism, we can talk about it's called the Evolving Together framework. So we ask people, do you think that the world would be better if we would evolve away from using animals as resources? And I find that most people I ask that to, even if they've been arguing with me in favor of eating meat for the last 20 minutes, they'll usually say yes to that question. The evolution framework works really well. Christian group. No, it's not a Christian group. And so Pax Fauna and Pro Animal Future reached out to me about doing some of their social media stuff. And I was really excited. And I officially start this week. So that's really exciting. But I want to talk a little bit about Pro Animal Future and their strategy, because I think it's a really unique opportunity in the United States, which probably can't. I don't know if any other countries have these ballot initiatives, they're called. So yeah, essentially this is Pro Animal Future, and there is a campaign to ban the sale of fur in Denver and to ban slaughterhouses in Denver. Right now in Denver, there's a huge lamb slaughterhouse. It's estimated they slaughter around 500,000 lambs per year, which is crazy. And it might be the biggest lamb slaughterhouse in the United States. So shutting that down would be huge. And the way this strategy works, thanks, Lewis. The way the strategy works is that there are these laws. They're called ballot initiatives. So basically, one of the issues with changing legislation surrounding animal rights is that if you go through politicians or if you try to target the government as a whole, the meat and dairy industry is so powerful that they just block everything. You may have seen in Florida, they banned research on lab grown meat or the sale of it or something because the meat and dairy lobby is so powerful. They don't want that to happen. So they just have immense power over the legislation. So ballot initiatives are a way to circumvent that. Essentially, what you do is you create a law and then you start collecting signatures. And when you get a certain amount of signatures, then that law goes onto the ballot and then people can vote directly on it. So you skip the politicians, you skip all this stuff, you just go straight to voters. Fritz, you're in Colorado. Absolutely look that up. If you want to get involved with Pro Animal, definitely shoot me an email because we need volunteers, especially in Colorado. So that's awesome. So it's just a really unique opportunity. There are a few other cities working on it. California and Sonoma County is doing a ballot initiative to ban factory farming. And that would be great because there's around 250 factory farms just in that county. So if we could shut those down, that would be such a huge win for animals. So ballot initiatives are allowed in about half of US states. So Pro Animal Future's goal is to essentially we want to win the Denver campaign. That's the focus of this year. They're going to be on the ballot. Our two initiatives are going to be on the ballot in November for the presidential election, which is also great because a lot more people vote when it's a presidential election than in other elections. And if we win that, which I hope we do, obviously, then we're going to replicate it in other cities in America. And then after that, it could go to the state level. And then we could ban slaughter and I'm not sure if there's going to be different ones at the state level in 10 states by 2034 is the goal. But all this stuff would be such a huge win because I can go over some of the stats here. But basically, what they found essentially is they were doing polls and they found that like even people who would never go vegan would vote yes to ban slaughterhouses, which doesn't make any sense because they would have to stop eating meat if slaughterhouses are banned. But it's part of, I talked about this in my Lies Meat Eaters Tell Themselves video about basically you're willing to behave morally if everyone else around you is, but not if you're the only one who's willing to bear the costs. So that's why a lot of people don't go vegan because they think, why should I do the right thing when everyone else around me is still eating meat? But if we can talk to them and say, hey, you have an opportunity to come together and vote to make the world better for animals, then they're going to be a lot more likely to do it. There was some stat that 47% of Americans would vote yes to ban slaughter. And that same poll found that 97% of people said that eating meat was a personal choice. So that's obviously contradictory, but I think it presents a really unique opportunity. So that's Pax Fauna's whole thing is to not talk to people about going vegan and talking about them in terms of being a consumer, but to talk to them in terms of being a citizen and creating massive social change. There are other benefits to it because we're going to learn how to build community and get activists together. And yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. So here's some of the stuff. Does your vision of a peaceful world include slaughterhouses? obviously not. And then there's a lot of info about what happens to these animals at the slaughterhouse. And I really like that this is going to be a sheep slaughterhouse because I think people have more of a soft spot for sheep than pigs or cows. Obviously, speciesism, but yeah, so 91% of Americans say farmed animals have roughly the same ability to feel pain and discomfort as humans. So people are aware that animals feel pain and they are uncomfortable with what's happening to animals inside these places, but they feel as if themselves going vegan or anything they do just wouldn't be enough to change. So we can step in and say, hey, you can have the power to change this. You can vote. And that's really awesome. The other thing about the slaughterhouse is that it's in a mostly Hispanic neighborhood and it's just terrible there. Like it smells horrific. There's interstates surrounding the neighborhood too. So yeah, it's just really bad, and if we get this shut down, then we can help make the neighborhood better. A lot of people who work in the slaughterhouse are undocumented immigrants, and, we all know they have higher rates of PTSD, depression, and whatnot, and then part of this initiative is to help those workers get different jobs. So, yeah, it's called the Globeville and El Raya Swansea neighborhood, and it's the most polluted zip code in America, which is crazy. So yeah, there's just some more stuff on here, a more peaceful world for animals, better for the environment, better for people. And I think when I'm talking to people about it, I can just kind of lean into that like regardless of what you think about eating meat, these places are bad for animals, they're bad for the people who work there, and they're bad for the environment. And that's something that people can get behind emotionally. Let's see. Now every meat eater is like plants feel pain. Yeah, a lot of people say that. You know what's interesting? This last tour, I only had a couple people tell me that plants feel pain. Most of them, maybe that excuse is kind of dying a little bit. The other interesting thing was that only one person brought up crop deaths, which I feel like whenever you post something online, all the comments are about crop deaths, but when you actually talk to people in person, it rarely comes up. All right. CSU campus has a slaughterhouse. Wow. What's CSU? Is that Colorado State University? They give it an educational sanitized name, but they kill animals. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty gross to have it on campus. That's interesting. We should get that shut down too. Crop dust is the number one anti vegan argument online. Absolutely, it is. Thanks, Ted Nugent. All right. So now let's go back to Reddit. Colorado. Oh, and Fort Collins. Okay. I'm still not totally familiar with all of the Colorado geography and whatnot. I went to Denver once when I was a kid. I lived in New Mexico for a while, so we just went up there. But I haven't been since I've been an adult. So I'm excited to go to Denver. I think I'll travel there fairly often. I'm not moving there. I'm going to stay in New Orleans, but it'll be really cool to meet the community. Catherine Klein's there. I'm excited to meet her in person finally. And yeah, just like every time I see their posts, there's like 15 people like getting together to write postcards for animals and talk about animal rights. And that sounds so awesome because here in New Orleans, I really don't have a good vegan community. I know a couple vegans, but they're not necessarily active. And then the times when I have met activists and we've gotten along, they move away because New Orleans is a transient city. Most people who live here just stay for a year, maybe 3 years, and then they go somewhere else. The job market here isn't that great. So it's kind of a bummer. It's just hard. It's been hard for me to build community here. So I'm really excited to join an existing community. You date people you don't enjoy because they are vegan. That would be hard for your partner to hear. Yeah, for sure. All right, back to see what else is going on Reddit. I haven't been on Reddit much because I've been so busy with traveling. Traveling's hard, guys. It's really hard for me. I don't know if everyone struggles with it as much as I do, but I just have a really tough time sleeping in hotel rooms, and my diet's pretty dialed in when I'm at home. And then when you travel, it's just too hard. I have a chat. What is this? Hey, Natalie, I'm watching your stream right now. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, if anyone wants to message me on Reddit, this is your mom's vegan butt. Feel free to message me. I will probably read it on stream though. So if you have anything private, then don't send it. Is the Bible against veganism? Let's see what the Bible says. I want to stop eating meat and animal products, but as a woman of Christian faith, I'm not sure how to go about this while maintaining my relationship with God. I would please like anyone who doesn't believe in him or is of indifferent people to please not bash me for who I follow. I respect others' views and I'm a very open-minded individual. This post is strictly about animals named in the Bible being created here on earth for our consumption, and if by not eating them goes against God's wishes. So many of the Christians I talked to on tour just said, "Oh, it's in the Bible, it's okay." The thing I always do is I say, "Is there anything that mandates eating animals in the Bible?" They always say no, and then I say, "So you agree it's a choice?" And then we've gotten somewhere. Then we've agreed that even though the Bible says it's okay, it's a choice. Now, Christspiracy is going to make the case that Jesus was trying to stop people from slaughtering animals. Now, I'm very curious to see that and to see how it changes these discussions in the future. But I think it's really I just really don't like it when people try to use the Bible as an excuse to justify paying for animals to be tortured. It's one of the things that really bothers me when I'm doing activism. I'm not Christian. I'm not against Christianity, but I do get frustrated with Christians when they try to do this stuff, especially because the Bible's been used in the past to justify so much horrible stuff. And that's another thing I say to people sometimes is, could we agree that religion's been used to justify things in the past that were immoral? They usually say yes to that. So I think it's all right. Let's see. Why would God want you to slaughter his creation? Exactly. It doesn't make sense. But then in the Bible, God was always making people slaughter animals for sacrifices. But then Jesus came and sacrificed himself so they didn't have to do that anymore, which is interesting. But I found that whenever I personally talk to people about the Bible, anything I say, if I say, "Oh, well, God gave permission during the flood because it was a time of necessity," or if I say, "Why would God want you to slaughter animals?" Then we just get into the nitty-gritty about the Bible, and my knowledge of the Bible is not that strong. So it's kind of like a losing battle for me. I have a coworker at ASAP who is Christian. So a lot of times I just send Christians to him. But I find that just asking, are there vegan Christians, is a great way to get through that. But yeah, I agree. I don't think God would like, if I believed in God, I don't think God would like what we're doing to animals. And it just seems so cruel and unnecessary. And even the Christians agree that God would not like factory farming. But then they think, "Oh, I don't buy factory farm meat," even though they do. So you kind of get stuck in a dead end. But yeah, obviously the Bible's not against veganism. The Bible is open to interpretation, but a relatively clear interpretation comes through the Garden of Eden. God calls it utopia, and everyone is vegan because no one eats each other and no one dies. Only after the fall of man and the arrival of the devil do people and animals start eating each other. I don't necessarily think that's a good argument to bring up because whenever I say that to people, they say, "Oh, well, we're not in the Garden of Eden and man has free choice, so that's why we behave badly." So while that may sound like a good argument, from my personal experience, it has not worked very well. One thing that my coworker said that I thought was interesting, not the Christian guy, a different one, was he would ask, or you would say, "Okay, so God gave us dominion over animals, right?" They say yes. Then you say, "Who has dominion over humans?" And they say, "God." And then you can say, "Well, God doesn't, he may have dominion over us, but he doesn't send us to slaughterhouses. So just because we have dominion over animals doesn't mean we should send them to slaughterhouses. And I thought that was a really unique argument that I hadn't heard before. I tested it out about 5 times. It worked well twice. It didn't work the other 3 times. So that's why whenever I hear these arguments, I love that I have an opportunity to test them on a lot of people. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that argument, but I do think that it's a really interesting idea. And if you are in a bad place with Christian and maybe they won't agree that it's a choice, or you tried some of the other stuff and it didn't work, then try that Dominion one because it works all right. I think there was a question I missed over. Let's see. How do you respond to people who say they just don't care about how animals are treated? Sure. So, it depends where I am and what the other person is. Generally, if someone straight up tells me they don't care about animals, I know that I could be talking to someone who does care about animals. So I'll usually say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you don't care about animals. I'm trying to connect with someone who does. Have a great day." And just end the conversation. If that's like a family member or maybe someone that you can't necessarily get away from, you can ask, "Oh, you really don't care about animals?" Justin actually made a video about this, debug your brain for different ways to respond to um, that argument. And one of the things was to initially respond empathetically, say like, "Oh, you don't care about animals?" Don't say, "Oh, you don't give a shit about animals," in a hostile way, just an open, curious vibe. And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, maybe I do care about animals." Faraz does this thing where he'll say, "Oh, so if someone was abusing a dog, was kicking a dog in front of us right now, you wouldn't do anything about it?" And sometimes that'll make them kind of go back on what they said. But look, the truth is, there's some people who don't give a shit about animals. Those people will never give a shit about animals. We are never going to turn those people vegan. It's much better if we explain to those people that we're trying to connect with people who do care about animals. Maybe they'll start to feel a little bad. Maybe they'll think, "Oh, I guess if other people care about animals, maybe I should." But in general, I would say that when you're doing outreach, not wasting time is very important. So don't waste your time with assholes. Um it's the same as saying that humans are at the top of the food chain, therefore we can do whatever we want to them. Yeah. Food chain though, that's one of my favorites. They'll say, "Oh, we're at the top of the food chain." So I like to ask, just because we can dominate other species, does that mean it's moral to do so? I could say dominate, tyrannize, whatever. Just, make the point that just because we have the power to do something doesn't mean it's good. I always love that Spider-Man quote. It's such a great quote. With great power comes great responsibility. Just because we have the power to tyrannize other animals, does that mean it's moral to do so? People always respond really well to that question. It really makes them think. They never say, "Oh, yeah, we should terrorize other animals just because we can't." Sometimes they say that. Great time to end the conversation. So, all this stuff comes down to practice. Practice having conversations with people, learn what responses you like. Every single conversation is different. I know a lot of people get sick of doing outreach because they feel like they're just going to hear the same excuses over and over. And that's partially true. But every person is unique and has a unique experience of life. All of their energy is going to be different. They may be asking a question with genuine curiosity where someone else who asked that question could just be doing it to be an asshole. So it's really important to stay present and to feel the other person's vibe and see where you can match them and work on your emotional maturity and intelligence. And I feel like every time I talk to someone, it's just such a unique opportunity to be a great representation of animal rights, because it happened a few times on tour where I would talk to students and they said, "Oh, I talked to this other vegan who was here a month or 2 ago, and he was really hostile and mean, and he turned me off from veganism." And that was just such a shame to me, because I hate the fact that there are vegans out there being really mean and hostile to people. I feel as if it's like I have to go back and correct for that, right? Whereas if we put a good representation of animal rights initially, then we've got a better shot. There are a lot of hunters and farmers who came up. They've only ever seen vegans on TV or on Instagram, maybe doing protests or disruptions. There's nothing wrong with protests or disruptions, but I do think it's important for them to meet a vegan who's rational and level headed and makes a really solid case for animal rights. And I just think it's great to be able to be that person. And you could be that person too. You know, every person you meet is an opportunity to tell them what we're doing to animals is wrong for these reasons. And it doesn't have to be this way. We can change the world and empower people. Let's see. They don't care about animals or their fellow man, also, at the end of the day. That's true. A lot of people don't care. You know, humans are kind of a selfish species. I feel selfish sometimes as well. Part of my veganism did come out of self-interest because of the pandemics and the climate change and the antibiotic resistance. I thought, hey, there's not going to be a world for me to relax in if we keep doing this to animals. So, you know, I think we all have selfish motives. And yeah, it's unfortunate that some people can't get past that at all. But we don't have to win everyone over. We just need a certain percentage of the population, and then we're going to be good. All right. Enough with the but. If you think God is happy with torture, yeah, probably not happy about that. All right, let's see what else. What else we have here on Reddit. Oh wow. That's a weird ad. I guess they don't know my Reddit account yet, so I'm getting erectile dysfunction ads. Today, I spoke to my friend's mother, who is a dietitian, on the topic of veganism. Let's see what this one has to say. She started off by saying that veganism, if just blatantly bad for your body, and she put forth these 3 points. There are certain amino acids that the human body needs that can only be derived from eating meat, or at least that source of protein is best when it comes from meat. Vegan alternatives like soybeans and such have a lot of negative effects on your body because it increases the risk of developing cancerous cells. 3, humans are made to be omnivores, eating both plants and animals, which is why we have a set of carnivorous teeth and herbivorous teeth, unlike pure carnivores and herbivores. Okay. Interesting. I assume that whoever posted this is not a vegan. Otherwise, I would hope that they know the answers to some of these questions. But yeah, there are no amino acids that we need that can only be derived from eating meat. There are 9 essential amino acids. All plants have all of them in varying amounts. Soy is great. It has a lot of them. There's also evidence that certain amino acids are not the ones we really want, like lutein. I guess you might not want too much of that. Methionine, I think it's called. You don't want too much of that. I'm curious to see how that research progresses. But at the end of the day, we don't need any of these amino acids from meat. Vegan alternatives like soybeans have a lot of negative effects on your body. Okay, we know that's not true. Soy is generally protective against cancer and super healthy. Also, why do we have to call soybeans vegan alternatives? They're just a food in and of themselves. You know, soybeans have been used for thousands and thousands of years. It's not that they're a meat alternative. They're just food, right? So I hate when people kind of compare everything we eat to meat. Okay, human beings are made to be omnivores, eating both plants and animals. I actually like when people say this to me because I say omnivore means that you can either live on all plants or on all meat or a mix of both. So within the omnivorous definition is the ability to live on all plants. But obviously, the best way to deal with that is to say, just because we can do something, does that mean that we should? I have a hand, I could punch you in the face. Does that mean it's moral to do so? But yeah, let's see what the comment. Yeah, you can get all the essential amino acids, blah, blah, blah. There were studies done on rodents who process soy differently from humans. Okay, so maybe that's why there's all that myth, is because of these animal testing experiments. We did evolve to eat both. That means we should evolve away from eating animals. You'll be fine if you don't eat a varied diet, but still a surplus of protein. Health outcome data suggests that even if we can eat animal products, we're better off if we don't. So someone shared this study that says meat is protective and like helps longevity. I think I'm gonna find it and ask like a plant-based doctor or something to go through it because I'm not the best at reading studies. So yeah, it's different. Sounds like you don't think much of them. Blah blah blah. I'm not sure what. Okay. Did you think activism in Wisconsin was more difficult than in New Orleans? No. Activism in Wisconsin was not more difficult than in New Orleans. New Orleans is by far the most difficult activism experience that I've ever experienced. And I think that's why I'm better at dealing with negativity than some other vegans. I'm better at letting anger wash off of me because I started doing street outreach on my own with a sign that said, debate me about veganism on Bourbon Street, which is where, first of all, everyone's really drunk. So they're already in like a highly emotional state. Second of all, they're not actually from New Orleans generally. They're from a lot of these big Midwestern states. So a lot of them could have been from Wisconsin. But yeah, I think by far the most difficult activism I've ever done and probably will ever do was in New Orleans. Even talking to farmers at Texas A&M and hunters at Texas A&M was more difficult the conversations I've had in New Orleans. When I went to Wisconsin, it didn't stick out in my mind much. It is the dairy state. We were there for 3 days. As soon as you land in the airport there are all these ads for dairy. There are these cheese hats everywhere. The license plates say America's Dairyland. And it's terrible, right? I hate the dairy industry so much. But the conversations I had with the students there were similar to conversations I've had in other places. I didn't notice a huge difference. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely cultural differences, and some places are going to be more difficult than others. But in general, I wouldn't think too much about it. Every person is unique and every person is different. Don't just assume because you're somewhere specific that it's going to be a lot worse than somewhere else. I would try to read the vibe of the person first and then think about kind of where you are second, for sure. Let's see. Plants have amino acids. Yes, yes, yes. I nerd out on nutrition channels. I should do that too. Sometimes I watch nutrition stuff, but it's a little boring. Have you had anyone yelling at you and they were drinking? Yeah, you have as well. People yell at me all the time. And the cool thing is that it gives you an opportunity to practice dealing with anger and to practice being non-reactive, because as vegans, people are trying to get under our skin. I don't know if y'all remember, there was this video of someone at the New York City Animal Rights March year before last, and someone was eating a hot dog in front of her, and she starts freaking out, yelling at him, like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck you. What are you doing? Murdering animals." And it went viral. And it just reinforced the idea that vegans are emotionally unhinged. So that's what people want from us. They want us to be emotionally unhinged because then they can discount veganism and they can say, "Oh, I don't have to worry about being vegan because vegans are crazy." So whenever someone yells at you, just remember, hey, I can be here. I can be non-reactive. I can show them that they're wrong about vegans, that we're not just emotional and hysterical, we're rational and we just care about animals. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. They eat everything in Louisiana. Yeah, people eat a lot of weird shit here, that's for sure. It's pretty gross. I was talking to someone in Texas that was saying she ate hamsters and guinea pigs and raccoons, and there was some festival in Texas where they were eating rattlesnakes as well. I think some of the vegans were going to protest that. Someone punched you. Yes, Nilf, I got punched as well. I think that was unrelated to veganism, though. That was because this guy, I didn't realize that he was this insane homeless guy. I thought he was just like a general, just like an old man in the quarter. And I had my sign that said, I don't even think the sign said anything about veganism. It was the help me grow my YouTube channel, answer thought-provoking questions. And I started interviewing him, and then he was asking me all these weird questions. He said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Tennessee." And then he said, "That's not enough information. Answer more of my questions." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm the one doing the interview. I'd appreciate if you would let me ask the questions." And then he grabbed my microphone and punched me. And I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Luckily, it was the middle of the day. There were 30 people around, so nothing really escalated, but yeah, that sucked. That was on day 1 of my 30-day challenge, and I was just thinking, "What the hell have I gotten myself into? This is terrible." But that's the only time I've been punched. I've been yelled at a lot. There's this one guy that's always at the bar where I usually go out front of on Bourbon Street, and he hates me. Every time I show up, he's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? Get away from here." Yeah, that guy's like legitimately scary to me. But since I started doing more work with universities, I go out on the streets in New Orleans less. And I think that's been a lot better for my mental health. I think it's a better strategy too, because someone who's at a university who has vegans around them, who has access to a vegan club, if they want to go vegan, it's going to be way easier for them to do so than someone who just comes here on vacation in New Orleans and goes home um, and maybe doesn't even know any other vegans. It's better if we can talk to people who do have a community around them. All right. Yeah, they are the ones acting crazy, not us. Yeah, for sure. Let's see if there's anything else about nutrition. Yeah, I guess people can just say they're dietitians. Um, yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. So many people just don't believe that veganism is healthy because there's a bunch of people on TikTok saying it's unhealthy. I saw this report that the meat industry is partnering with TikTok creators and, funding this research to create this disinformation campaign to smear veganism. And that's what we're up against. And it's unfortunate, but, it's a tough world. It's a tough world. All right. Does anyone have questions you want me to answer? Happy to answer anything. Feel free to ask. But if not, we will go back to Reddit. Okay, this is like totally unrelated. I guess Reddit, since I just made this account and only followed vegan stuff, is trying to get me to follow other stuff, but I'm not going to. Veganism guidebook from my favorite Misinformation Central. Okay. Can any common veganism related nutritional deficiencies cause dry hands? That's weird. I've got dry hands. There was a time in high school when my hands, after I got out of the shower, would like get really weird. I called it mermaid hands, and one of my friends had it as well. And we found that the only solution was to put this specific type of deodorant on our hands. Then the problem went away. That was bizarre. But obviously, that had nothing to do with going vegan because I wasn't there. Ooh, Breyers has non-dairy ice cream now. That's cool. I love ice cream. I wish I could eat it every day, but I always forget to buy it. Malnourished and making no progress with vegan food. Nice. Good job. Get in the gym, y'all. We want to look good for the animals, but that's not required because we want vegans of all shapes and sizes. Oh, this one sounds good. Oh boy, I think my family relationship is ruined now. Oof. About 3 months ago, I became vegan. My family wasn't very big on it, but I didn't force it on them, and neither did I interfere with their day to day. I woke up extra early to prepare my meals so not to trouble them. That sucks. I mean, God, we should have been shoving tofu down their mouth. In spite of all of this, it wasn't enough. My sibling frequently bashes my life choices. Being a chef, they very passionately mock my cooking. I know I can't beat a chef, but I'm just cooking what I can and what is comfortable to me. Every meal I make, if my sibling happens to pass, they will make sure to ruthlessly insult it and insist I stop this. They even puked my bean milk and made sure the whole house heard it. I don't know what that means. What's bean milk? Is bean milk a thing? Do you guys drink bean milk? Am I not vegan enough that I'm drinking oat milk instead of bean milk? But I just lived with it. I didn't want to escalate things. Today, that has become unavoidable. I bought ingredients to make muffins, but had to do them late due to an emergency meeting. The muffins are Simnett Nutrition, aka Derek's recipe. I love Simnett Nutrition. So while I was starving and making the muffins, my sibling sees me making them and goes, "You can't make muffins without milk. You were just making oat flour in the shape of muffins." I ignored them and said, "I'm hungry. I'm making them anyway." Man, this is long. It's okay. It'll be good. And they tell me every vegan pastry is hideous. And as a chef, he already knows it's going to be shit. So I overdid the muffins. There were too many to finish. So I offered the neighbors and my parents some. They were not enthusiastic. My sibling took them first and said, "I told you it's not real muffins. Doesn't taste like them." But then the tables turned. Ooh, good. My mom and dad, who were previously anxious about the muffins, actually liked it and they said it was nice. My sibling retorted to them, "Yeah, if I made a muffin like that, I lose my job. It doesn't taste like a real muffin, mom, dad. You can't taste good food even if it was given to you." This sibling sucks. Like, I'm just going to say, like, they're total assholes. Then the neighbors came and said they liked it too. And my sibling told them it isn't real muffins, it has no milk, blah, 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 and all his grandkids agreed and said the vegan muffins were great. My sibling has a mental breakdown. Holy shit. They throw plates, yells at everyone, and say, "We staged this." They threw the plate and said, "We don't know shit about food. And if the world keeps up like this, then he will lose his job." What? They went on to say vegans want to take everything from his life, his friends, family, job, the steakhouse, and everything that makes life worth living. Stomps off and slams the door and refuses to go for their shift in the evening. Said if we liked our oat flour sludge so much, we should do his job in the steakhouse. The whole house is upside down now, and it seems like at the rate this goes, the family has to separate. And my sibling refuses to work until. Is this made up? My father said that he thought about it. My great grandma was vegan due to religion, and maybe she was right all along. He said if my sibling wants me to leave, maybe the two of us should leave and move back to my great grandma's townhouse where there are vegan options and my siblings can stay here. It's been a wild day and death, not the outcome I expected. Okay, all of that is insane. Like, there's clearly something wrong with the sibling. They're just like overly triggered by the fact that vegans exist. The claim that vegans are going to take away everything that's important to them is pretty wild. Like, if the only thing that makes your life worth living is exploiting animals, then you have a shitty life and you should try to find other things that make life worth living besides your job at a steakhouse. Also, why was there why was their boss not mad that they just straight up didn't show up to work? They're gonna say it's over a fight over muffins. And that's another thing I hate is this double standard with vegan food. Like, we're supposed to make all of our food amazing, otherwise it's veganism's fault. Whereas if a non-vegan makes something it doesn't come out well, they could blame the recipe or they just didn't do it right. It's not that there's a problem with eating animal products. Whereas with vegans, yeah, it seems unfair. That being said, I'm such a better cook now. I probably could. I don't know if I'm better than a chef, probably not, because they spend like all their time cooking. But I've gotten so much better since going vegan because now I understand how to layer flavors and what plants provide different flavors. Rainbow Plant Life has been so good for my cooking. If y'all don't watch her channel, definitely check it out. She's got a new cookbook coming out too that I'm excited about. Um, but yeah, this is wild. I'm gonna check some of your comments. Yeah, tough to yeah, that was a weird story. So, oh, soy milk is bean milk. Okay, calling soy milk bean milk is weird. Like, it's soy milk. Ethically based omnivore. That's why I absolutely stay away from any discussion about health because I don't want non-vegans thinking veganism is a diet, and most people don't actually care or know anything about it. That's a good point. Most people don't give a shit about their health. There was Faraz was at a Cube or something, and he said he talked to someone, and they said, "Oh, I can't go vegan. I'm worried about health." And then they went into a burger place and came out with a burger, fries, and a milkshake. They're concerned about health? Clearly not. Clearly not. And yeah, we don't want people to think veganism is a diet. That's honestly, I'm kind of getting sick of the word vegan I'm thinking about maybe making a video about how we should switch it to pro animal, because we want people to think about animals, not vegans, not diets. I just feel as if people don't think about animals at all when you talk about veganism. That story is great, just goes to show carnists are the crazy ones. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most carnists are not that insane, but that was wild. Most people eat McDonald's and processed crap. Yeah, it's true. They're like, "Oh my god, plant-based meat is so processed," and they're eating McDonald's. That's why it's insane. It's perfectly okay for non-vegans to get super unhinged, but the moment a vegan is emotional for justified reasons, or suddenly the wackos. Yeah, it's really frustrating because our anger is the proper response to what's happening to the animals right now. Honestly, I think my anger has dissipated the longer I've been vegan, but when I first went vegan, I was just so mad at the world for so long. Some of my favorite authors, I just stopped reading their work because they're not vegan. I was like, I don't even want to listen to something that non-vegans say. I was so angry, and I've gotten a little bit better about that, and I assume that I will continue to feel better about it over time. But that is a completely rational response to the fact that over 100 billion animals are tortured every year for an unnecessary reason. Absolutely, we should be really, really mad at that. Nilf, I'm still mad. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I'm still mad too. I'm not saying that I'm not mad. I'm just saying my anger has it's not as strong as it used to be in a good way. Like, I don't know, I was very preoccupied with it for quite some time, and I still do feel angry a lot, and I think one of the biggest challenges I've had is learning how to use anger in a more productive way, and that's always a good thing to do. But Nilf, I'm glad you're angry. Stay mad, because you do so much shit. You put up so much stickers and, make a lot of content, and that's amazing. So I'm glad that your anger is propelling you to action. And yeah, just don't be dicks to people. I always say, like, whatever we do, we want to treat people with kindness, because, as MLK says, you have zero persuasive power over someone who can sense your underlying contempt. So we don't want them to feel our anger, even if we have it. We just unfortunately have to be extra calm and extra rational, even though there's this horrible thing going on that we're all angry about. Okay, let's see what some of the comments said. Your sibling needs therapy, Jesus. Yeah, they are in therapy for years, but little effect. Every few years, the therapist changes because they were beneath a level of consciousness to understand my siblings. Okay, so the sibling changes the therapist every few years because they say the therapist isn't good enough. I think that happens to a lot of people, is if they don't take therapy seriously or they're not willing to change, then it's just not gonna help. If a cook can't cook delicious vegan food, they are just bad and probably can't do more than following recipes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't have any respect for chefs that can't make a good vegan meal, because that you're just relying on dead animals for the flavor the whole time. You're not a good chef in that case. It also shows a lack of creativity, because vegan recipes, you kind of have to go out of your way sometimes to use ingredients that maybe you're not familiar with. And that's so beneficial to your cooking. They work in a steakhouse. I assume cooking at a steakhouse is really easy because, like, there's not even anything on steak. You basically just put it on the grill and then flip it over. Maybe some spices. I don't know. I never really ate steak very much, but now I eat lion's mane steak a lot, and that shit is so good. Yeah, my cooking is elevated since going vegan, Sir Trail. Yeah, I mean, I think generally vegans are better cooks than omnivores. And that's another thing, is I wonder if that's part of why vegan restaurants have a harder time staying in business, is because now that I'm such a better cook, I'm a lot less likely to go out to eat, because I know that I can probably make something at home that tastes better than whatever I'll get. So why would I spend $15, $20 on something I can make at home for $5 and it'll last longer? And I think that could definitely hurt vegan businesses over the long haul. I think COVID really hurt the restaurant industry too, because people had to learn how to cook. And now that they can, they don't necessarily want to go out to eat as much. Even before I was vegan, I thought steak was overrated. You know what's weird is since I've gone vegan, people will come up to me and say, you know, I've always secretly hated steak, but I don't want to tell anyone. And I think that everyone secretly hates steak and people only eat it for status or because it's considered masculine or something. So I thought that was really interesting. I certainly never really enjoyed steak that much. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe people are pretending to like it, like caviar. People definitely pretend to like caviar because that shit tastes gross. I think I've only tried it once when I was little and I never liked it, but I was talking to one of my other coworkers at ASAP and he's pretty rich and he said that he used to pretend to like caviar even though he always hated it. So I thought that was funny. Make vegan pizza at home, save 15 bucks. Pizza is insanely expensive. It's ridiculous how expensive pizza is. And most places use Daya for vegan cheese, which is fine. I'll eat it. But I love that liquid, the Miyoko's mozzarella. That stuff's really good. So now when I make pizza, I use that and I just put like a bunch of like roasted garlic and pineapple and whatnot. It's so good. I love making pizza. And I just buy the crust at the grocery store. I'm not trying to make any crust. That seems too hard. But I can put all the stuff on top of the crust. That's how I feel about whiskey. No way anyone likes that stuff. Alcohol in general tastes like shit. I mean, I spent about 15 years abusing alcohol. I never pretended that I liked the taste. There are some beers that aren't terrible. And once hard seltzers came out, I genuinely do like the taste of hard seltzers. They're so good. But I don't really drink much anymore because I want to be a better advocate and whatnot. But yeah, there's no way people like whiskey. Maybe they do, but a lot of gross shit. Family can be the worst and often is, but damn, your case is over the top. Hang in there. Yeah, I mean, that's just clearly like a mental health thing, even with family being bad a lot of the time. Most of the family problems you're going to have aren't going to be nearly that extreme as someone breaking plates and throwing things and cussing you out every time you cook. More likely it's going to be snide comments here and there. Why don't you just cheat? Why do you care about animals? Just people kind of minimizing your choices. And one thing that if anyone's in that situation, I think it's always great to set boundaries. I think a lot of people aren't as good at setting boundaries as would be optimal. So you can say, hey, just so you know, I don't appreciate when you say things like that. Could you please not do it in the future? Or just ask people nicely not to do that. And then if they keep violating your boundary, then you can just say, like, hey, I'm not going to talk to you if you do that anymore and stick to it or leave the situation. Just don't let people disrespect you like that. I think a lot of vegans aren't as socially skilled as maybe the non-vegan population, and it could be because vegans are a lot more likely to go against the grain and to think for themselves, and I think that's a great characteristic. But a lot of vegans I meet are just very awkward and shy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I used to be so shy and so awkward, but I think it's valuable to try to work through that and to stand up for yourself and become someone that people admire and respect, and then you're going to have more of a powerful influence on people around you. So if someone ever says bullshit to you like that, don't be afraid to set a boundary. Just be polite, be firm, and stand your ground. Right, back to Reddit. Why do vegans think they are morally superior to animal abusers? Your food choices are so violent and abhorrent that you won't even allow me to post videos depicting them on your website. Yeah, I mean, the whole morally superior thing I think is interesting. I really try not to feel morally superior because I think that I don't want to play into stereotypes people have of vegans. So we shouldn't go around acting superior necessarily because that makes it too easy for people to dismiss us. And then I made a video about Charlie Houpert. I don't know if y'all saw it, but he said basically part of why he stopped eating meat was to be morally superior. And I guess that means that some people do go vegan to do that. And I noticed when I was doing advocacy with some other people that one of them very clearly it came across that he cared more about being right and being superior than actually speaking up for animals, and I think that's really bad. But then when you isolate the choices, right? Like, let's say on one hand, you can choose to pay for a cow into a slaughterhouse. The other hand, you have a black bean burger. Obviously, the black bean burger, the choice to eat that is morally superior. So, our diets are morally superior to meat eaters' diets. That's just a fact. All other things being equal, say I exist and my non vegan self exists, and we're exactly the same in every way except for one version is vegan, that version would be morally superior for sure. And the other interesting thing about vegans is that I feel as if, obviously, it's not just diet, but it's the lifestyle as well. But that lifestyle bleeds out into other areas. Since I've gone vegan, I'm a lot more careful about where I buy clothes, trying to buy a second hand. The next phone I'm going to get, I'll get secondhand. Like, there's all these things that I never really thought about or cared about that since going vegan, I consider a lot more ethically. That being said, I'm certainly not perfect. I still do some unethical things, and no vegan is perfect. And we shouldn't necessarily have to be held to a higher moral standard just because we're vegan. I think that's unfair as well. But yeah, a person who kicks a dog for fun is morally inferior to the person who doesn't, for sure. Oh, is the sound not working? Can y'all hear me? Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. All right, I'm just going to keep going. Sweet potatoes. That looks awesome. I love sweet potatoes. They're for sure. Okay, you hear me fine? Good. Oh, it's your AirPods. Yeah. That's funny. Um, yeah, let's get some love for sweet potatoes in the chat. Got to get your beta carotene. I'm not sure what's on that. Probably like sour cream or, oh, it looks like there's tofu. I love tofu. Okay, help me mentally. Let's help this vegan. What's going on with them? As a lifelong vegetarian who has recently turned to veganism, I've started to believe meat eaters are my enemies. It has gotten to the point where I've lost all my friends and stopped talking to almost everyone when I realized they're not vegetarian or vegan. I'm now completely alone and lonely. What should I do? What do y'all think they should do? Does anyone else feel that way? Do you feel that you hate everyone who's not vegan? Because I've certainly been through phases in my life where I feel like that. And it's definitely harder to relate to people who aren't vegan. That being said, I really don't want to feel that way because if we want to create this, vegan world and we want to change the world for animals, we're going to have to work with meat eaters. We're going to have to work with farmers. We're going to have to work with everyone. And we don't want to just alienate people because they're not vegan. That's a bad way to live. The other thing is that if you don't have friends and family to lean on, you're going to have a way harder time functioning in the world. Social support is so important to us as humans. And unless you live somewhere with a bunch of vegans, unfortunately, your social support is going to have to come from meat eaters and friends and family. And when I first went vegan, I did alienate some friends just by talking to them about it and maybe being a little bit more hostile than I would now. And I don't necessarily regret it because that was part of how I learned how to speak better about this issue. But some of those relationships are still a bit strained. And I know that it's just like this wall that we can't really talk about. And it's a bummer. I would love to be able to be open and honest with all of my friends, but we just don't have that luxury. That being said, there's a huge difference between not being completely honest with someone and seeing them as the enemy. And at some level, they are our enemies, right? They are the ones perpetuating the system of animal torture that we abhor so strongly. They're the ones who are creating the problem that we're trying desperately to change. So, at some level, they are the enemy. But I think it's a lot more helpful to remember that people are so brainwashed. I was brainwashed. Most people watching this weren't born vegan. it's not their fault that they were raised in a culture that celebrates torturing animals and lies about it. Most of these people probably think that animals have a decent life and like maybe slaughterhouses suck, but they don't know the extent of the mutilations and the confinement and the torture. So it's just really helpful to put yourself in their shoes, to remember that you were the same. I mean, I had vegetarian friends that I was an asshole to, mostly because they were annoying, but also because, they were vegetarian. It's like low-hanging fruit. So remember that just because someone's an asshole doesn't mean they're never going to change. Don't ever give up on someone. Sometimes someone having this strong emotional reaction is a good sign because it means that there's something that's bothering them about what we do to animals. And if someone has no reaction to what's happening to animals, then that means they might just be a lost cause. They may just not care. But if they have a negative reaction, it shows that there's probably part of themselves that is uncomfortable with what's happening to animals. And that's why they're lashing out, calling us animalists. That's It's all right. I'm not sold on animalists. I feel like it sounds like a little I don't want anything that sounds like weirdly sexual. I'm not saying that definitely does, but I don't know. I like pro animal better. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let's see what the advice is here. You need to remind yourself that you haven't been vegan all of your life. Yeah, resentment is normal, especially for new vegans. You'll grow out of the misery and manage to turn it into something productive enough. The best way for people to learn about veganism is to be close to a vegan. Having Karn as friends and family gives you a chance to change their mind on at least some of the BS they support. That's a great comment. They put it better than I did. The empathy, the fact that the anger may lessen a little bit. And yeah, I mean, people need to know vegans. Like, I read something that part of the reason gay rights became successful was because gay people started coming out, and then people realized, oh, wow, I already know gay people. And then when you know someone who's gay, you change your mind on whether or not you think they should be allowed to get married, right? Because you want your friends to be happy. And when it comes to veganism, we do want to expose ourselves. That sounds weird. We want to be around non-vegans because then we present them with a good representation of veganism and the chance to change their mind on some of the BS they support. So absolutely, as uncomfortable as it can be, as annoying as it is to have to deal with a lot of non-vegans, we need to be doing what's best for the animals. And sometimes it's going to be that, right? We have more social influence with the people we know and we see regularly. So yeah, we should challenge that for good. I'm actually going to sort Reddit by top of this week so that we get some better posts. Oh, this is cute. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen right now. All right. Why so sad? I miss my human. Do you miss your human too? And there's a pig. It's like, oh no, I actually don't miss my human because they were beating me with an iron rod and cutting my tail off and pulling my teeth out. And then they forced me into a slaughter truck and they beat me off of the truck and electrocuted me and forced me into a gas chamber. Man, what we do to pigs is so fucking awful. It just makes me so sad. Most people around are not vegan. That's true. Most vegans weren't born vegans. That's why I'm an activist. Exactly. Channel that anger into activism. My family knows and they say they don't care. They are probably lying to themselves. They probably do care. They just don't want to change. And that's unfortunate. And I'm sorry about that. You hold a human murders accountable. Why not them? I think that human murders is different because we already live in a society where everyone's mostly against human murder. There's legal protections there. I think there are probably some places that they like gangs, right? Where they're killing each other all the time. And that violence is so normalized that they don't really hold each other accountable. They try to get away with it. So, yeah, I mean, I see the comparison that you're trying to make, but the fact is, we live in a world where people just torture animals and kill animals all the time. And yeah, it's a bummer, but I feel like we don't have the luxury of holding people to the same accountability as murderers, because we can't like send people to jail for eating animals. Maybe one day in the future. We will see. Burger King makes plant-based food cheaper than meat in Germany. That's awesome. Germany is one of the things I talk about a lot when I've been doing activism lately, because they slaughtered 10% fewer animals in 2022 than previous years, because so many more people have gone vegan and vegetarian. And we can see the effect that has, right? Like when people can go to Burger King and they buy plant-based food cheaper, and there's not all this fear mongering around the plant-based meats that are going to kill you and give you cancer, then it's going to be a lot more effective. So I get really jealous of Germany sometimes. They have those huge vegan grocery stores too. I really wish we had that. And yeah, once you make veganism more accessible and cheaper, then it's easier for more people to do it. And that's great. Florida legislature just banned cultivated meat. Yeah, I talked about that. The GOP is anti-free market. I think that's really an interesting point, is that, yeah, why aren't they supporting the free market? They're restricting freedom. Isn't the whole thing to not restrict freedom? Tired of explaining your reasons for being vegan to strangers? Try my alternative explanations. This looks like this might be interesting. If you're like me and you don't enjoy justifying your personal choices to strangers at every casual gathering, give these a whirl. They might just be the response your omnivore associates are hoping to hear. My ex is heavily invested in the meat and dairy industries, so I don't want to support their capital gains. All right. The last pork chop I ordered looked eerily similar to my mother, and I'm not ready to unpack that. So I guess these are just like jokes. Animal products make me too slippery. What? I'm saving myself for marriage. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Accidentally checked the wrong box in a survey. Changing my diet is easier than filing corrective paperwork. I feel like people never really ask me why I'm vegan. I wish they did, because I would love to make a good case for animal rights. But I do like the idea of, when someone asks why are you vegan, to answer with a joke like that, to kind of like bring the guard down. I saw Preacher Lawson did that. He said, people ask me why I'm vegan, and I say, I just had too many friends. And I think that's funny, because it points out that, first of all, everyone hates vegans. Second of all, it's like a really just silly answer to that question. But I would hope that more people are like me, and we love talking about veganism to strangers, and we love explaining the philosophy about animal rights, because I certainly do. And I think that every time you have an opportunity to explain why you don't want to torture animals, then you can get someone thinking, and we shouldn't squander those opportunities. I hate animals so much, I don't want them in me. Yeah, decent. I like the cut of your jib. Federal government subsidizes every piece of meat in the grocery store. Nobody actually pays what it costs us to produce it. Every time I eat a black bean taco, I am saving your taxpayer dollars. I don't want meat eaters to feel like we want to do them a favor, even though it's like a joke. When I tell people I tripped on acid and mushrooms together by myself, and after that experience, I couldn't justify eating animals or supporting the slaughter industry, their response is usually, oh, wow, or just silent nod, and then it never comes up again. That's great. I was talking to Faraz last week, and we were just coming up with fake ways to like turn everyone vegan. He's like, let's put acid in the water and then show Dominion. So then people will be so horrified, they'll go vegan. And I think there is something about psychedelics that makes you see the world in a different way. And maybe a new way to see it is to say that, hey, we shouldn't be doing this to animals. I was wondering, after we talked about that, like how many people have gone vegan because of hallucinogenics? And now we know that someone has right here. I think my lifestyle, though, not so much talking to other people today. I talked to at least 2 strangers about veganism. That's awesome, Omar. Keep talking about veganism. Talking to the barista, and she agreed with me. She was like, yeah, I wish we add vegan products. Are we supposed to do the manager about the vegan products? Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing to do, is talk to baristas and people at grocery stores when you're checking out, because you never know who you're going to influence. A lot of times when I buy like Beyond Meat or whatever, I'll ask like, hey, have you tried that? And sometimes they'll say, no, I heard it's bad. Then you can clear up that misconception, right? You can say like, oh, it's actually, they come out better than animal-based meats in studies, which is really cool. And yeah, just the more people we talk to, the better. There's this kid, Vegan Evan. He just got arrested, I believe, for doing like a PETA Starbucks protest. He talks to literally everyone about veganism. Every person he's around in public, he'll say, "Are you vegan? Are you vegan?" And he can get away with it because he's like 14, right? So it's not as weird. But he says he's turned over 1,000 people vegan. I don't know if that's accurate, but he claims that people message him all the time, like, "Oh, we talked the other day, and now I'm vegan." So that's really cool. Let's see. Bobby's perspective both went and stopped being vegan due to shrooms. Who's Bobby's perspective? Um, yeah, that sucks. Similar thing with Charlie Hooper. He took some, it was either mushrooms or acid, and his muse told him that he had to eat steak. So he was never vegan, but he started eating animals again, which is a fucking bummer. Vegan Evan's 12? Really? I thought he was older. That's cool. Yeah, he's got a good fire inside. How effective is a Super Bowl ad usually? Like, do sales skyrocket just because it's on the Super Bowl? I don't know. I was wondering that because companies will spend literally like $25 million for a Super Bowl ad. I feel like there's no way one ad is going to increase sales by $25 million. And then didn't Coke stop running Super Bowl ads and it was a thing? And they said because it had just gotten too expensive, they didn't think it was worth it anymore. So if Coke stopped, then, maybe it's not that good. Okay, I'm gonna look up who Bobby's perspective is because that's bugging me. Oh, it's some like, whoa. Oh, I've seen that guy before. Okay. Yeah, that's annoying. Well, I've seen him before now. He made some stupid anti-vegan video, I think. Yeah, I really don't engage much with anti-vegans or ex-vegans. I feel like I'm in kind of a small YouTube bubble just with like small vegan channels, and I do watch some stuff about fitness and maybe some other stuff, but I really don't consume that much content in general. I guess I'm just more focused on like activism and whatnot, which is probably good. That being said, I think it's great when people like do call out these people and make videos about these anti-vegans and ex-vegans. It's just not something I generally have the bandwidth for. All right. Go back to Reddit. I'm probably going to wrap up here in about 8 minutes. So if you have any questions, definitely get them in now. Yeah, I'm starting a new job this week. So that's very exciting. Like I haven't had like a salary like 9 to 5 job in a while. I was working at an office when I went vegan, and then I quit to start my YouTube channel, and then I started working mostly at restaurants where I could work part-time and then do YouTube part-time. And then I quit working at restaurants last time I went on tour with ASAP. And then since then, I've just been doing YouTube for the last couple months. And I feel like it's not quite enough work for me. I'd rather do more, which is why I wanted this other job. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see just how it affects my schedule. But it'll be nice. I'm excited to start working with other vegan activists on a daily basis, and people who I feel are like really good activists and have a great strategy. They say you become the average of the 5 people you're around. So I'm really looking forward to just spending more time with people who have been vegan advocates for like 10, 15 years, which is crazy. And I think I'll be able to learn a lot, which is going to be really awesome. So yeah, thank you, Omar. Appreciate that. Local vegan grocer was sold repackaged Dunkin' Donuts. Did y'all see this? This was crazy. I watched the Vegan Zombie put a video about this. But yeah, we have a small all vegan store that specializes in vegan alternatives. They're very active in our local vegan community and work with other local businesses that don't have a storefront. Recently, they started stocking donuts from a local vegan gluten-free baker. Today, they posted one of the donuts had the white D sprinkles, the Dunkin' Donuts sprinkles. She doubled down and said they were left over from a batch she made for a birthday party. And the sprinkles she sent were not vegan, were 3 to 4 times bigger, were full alphabet, not just D's. Then they tested the donut for gluten. It came back with high gluten. And I think they also tested for eggs as well. And it came back positive for eggs. So what they paid her over 1K. She quickly cashed the check, and now they're seeking legal action. What she did is extremely dangerous as well as morally wrong. What's odd is her personal Facebook page has her working at vegan bakeries for around a decade. Apparently, she's done freelance writing for Veg News. This whole story is absolutely insane. So, first of all, she would sell donuts to vegans and tell them that she'd been vegan for 15 years while she was selling them egg products. And someone commented that they have celiac disease, and they were buying a gluten-free donut from her, and they were like, "I'm so glad that these are gluten-free. I get really sick when I eat gluten. It's a shame because I love donuts." And she was like, "Oh yeah, this is why I do what I do." She just like knew that they were extremely allergic and sold it to them anyway. I was wondering, is this person like a sociopath? Are they a psychopath? Like, there's got to be I don't know if the intent was malicious or if it's just laziness, but there's got to be something fundamentally wrong with you if you think it's acceptable to sell people things that could kill them. I mean, that's absolutely bonkers. So I've generally had trust issues around a lot of vegan stuff, but we can only do the best we can. I'm thankful that I don't have any insane allergies, because if I did, I'd be very wary about eating out. But this story is just like totally insane. Omar Vegan Run, is dating a non-vegan person vegan? I think it's not. I'm interested in your perspective. Yeah, we kind of talked about dating non-vegans at the beginning of the stream, but just to answer that specific question, is it vegan? Yeah, I think it's vegan, because if you think about it, if you're dating a non-vegan person, they're probably going to be consuming a lot fewer animal products just by virtue of dating you. So even if they're not vegan, you could still be reducing the number of animals they exploit just because of the influence you have on them. So I think that's like a decent argument. The other thing is that we have so much influence over people we date. I mean, I turned my husband vegan. He says he went vegan because of our dog, but I like to think that I had some influence. And there's so many people I know that have turned their partners vegan. So we have a disproportionate effect on the people we're in relationships with. So I think dating non-vegans is one of the best forms of activism. The thing is that you shouldn't do it if they're not going to change. If it's clear they're not going to change and you've tried, and it's really important for you that they go vegan, then that's going to cause problems in your relationship. But give people some time, and don't rule someone out just because they're non-vegan. If maybe they've never heard a compelling case for animal rights, they've never met a vegan. There's so many people I talk to on the streets who've never even heard of vegetarians or vegans. I don't think we should hold those people to the same standards as someone who's engaged with this topic and still disagrees. So yeah, definitely get out there. I want to make a video. I don't think I actually can make it about using Tinder for vegan activism, where I set up a fake profile and just like kind of like catfish non-vegans. I'm considering that. So let me know if you would want to watch that video, because I think it would be really interesting. But I also feel a little ethically weird about the idea of it. So we will see. I had a coworker's wife secretly put bees honey in salsa she made me and told her husband not to tell me. Salsa or honey in salsa is really fucking weird. Like, why would you put honey in salsa? That's so bizarre. You know what I'm really bummed about? I just learned this last week that I've been eating Kind bars that have honey for like the entire time I've been vegan. I don't eat them too often, but whenever I go to airports, sometimes there aren't that many snacks at the airports. So I'll typically get like one of the Kind bars, and some of them have milk and eggs, but some don't. And I usually check the allergen, but I forgot to check all the ingredients. So I was with one of my coworkers. He's like, "Oh no, no, these all have honey." And I was like, "Holy shit." Like I've accidentally been eating honey and that sucks. That being said, it's a lot harder for me to care about bees than like pigs and cows. If I had found out that I've been accidentally eating dairy for years, I'd be a lot more upset. And maybe that's just my speciesism or whatever. But, I think bees are probably less sentient. I don't know. Either way, it sucks because I liked those kind bars. And now I have to find a new go to protein bar. I can go for Cliff Bars. Those are pretty tasty as well. So I'll stick with those. I realized my toothpaste wasn't vegan some weeks ago. That's a bummer. Yeah, vegan toothpaste can be tough to find. When I first went vegan, the only stuff available was Tom's, and I do not like Tom's. I don't think it's very good toothpaste. But now Hello came out, and I love that stuff. It's great to have toothpaste I like again. Cliff Grant bars. Yeah. Let's eat Cliff Grant. All right. Any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to do one more Reddit story and then we're out because I am tired. I have been doing activism for the last 12 days straight. And I slept for 9 hours last night, but I still need some more sleep. Oscar Mayer launches new plant-based hot dogs and sausages. That could be interesting. That's a good sign. If we have these big companies switching to plant-based, that means they think they'll make money off of that. Great. I would like to try them. I don't know if they're going to be good. I've tried a lot of vegan hot dogs that are not good at all. The field roast stadium dogs are my favorite. Those are amazing. But the Beyond sausages, I think, are probably the best. But yeah, if I see the Oscar Mayer, I'll pick it up. I'll let you guys know what I think. Sensodyne has one that's marked vegan. Interesting. I didn't know Sensodyne had a vegan toothpaste. What's not vegan about toothpaste? Typically, it's usually the animal testing. So Colgate, I believe, does animal testing. Crest does animal testing. So yeah, just look for cruelty free. I've actually heard that cruelty free may not mean anything, but we can only do what we can, and we can get vegan toothpaste. So go for it. But interestingly enough, it's more important to floss than to brush your teeth. So make sure that y'all are flossing. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, no. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I'll probably do a stream next week. I'm so bummed because I was going to go to Wisconsin for the Ridgeland trial, and it was going to be fun. I was going to see a bunch of my friends and meet a bunch of my new coworkers. And then they dropped the charges against the activists. We're not sure why. Maybe because of the negative press, and they thought they would lose. But it's a bummer because that was going to be a chance to fight for legal protection of animals and to argue that they're not objects, they are individuals in court. And I think that we had a good chance to win, but now they've dropped all the charges, which is such a fucking bummer. Beyond sausages are amazingly tasty. Yeah, they're so freaking good. It's wild how good they are. Wait, Natalie, where are you working right now? Yes, I announced this earlier. I got a job with Pax Fauna / Pro Animal Future, which I'm very excited about. I think it's going to be really good. And I start this week. So go follow Pro Animal Future social media pages. I'm going to be making a lot of content on there, working to win our campaign in Denver. If you want to get involved with any of that, check out proanimal.com. We need volunteers all over, mostly in Denver, but you can send postcards from anywhere. You can help from anywhere. You can donate, give us money to help animals. I think it's going to be a great campaign. So thank y'all so much, and I will see you next Sunday.